Yes, guys, it's the next episode of Beyond Posing, and that is with, you know who she is, Emma Hyman, the posing pro. All good?
All good, thank you so much. How are you doing?
All good. I think you got a visitor because your door just opened randomly.
Hi.
Either it's a ghost or someone's just come in.
There's a puppy on the floor.
There it is.
So let me close that again. Yeah, no, I'm good. Busy at the moment. Obviously, we're really getting into the season now. So we've got lots of academy students doing their weekly check-ins. It's actually check-in day today. And one-to-one studios busy. And we've actually got a posing event this weekend for the bikini girls and the figure girls. So yes, it is all go.
Yeah, and of course, there's so many shows going on, not just in the UK, but all over Europe and the world. And where we're going to
Yeah,
start, we're going to start down under because this weekend just gone, we have three new IFBB pros in the fifth model division.
yeah,
And once again, it's another week that goes on. We get another about 10 to 15 overall winners for fifth model division, and we get a better idea. Well, we always get a better idea about what we're just looking for, especially now. Regularly, every weekend, IFBB Pro Cards are being awarded for the new division. So, I thought what we'd do, let's start off with the IFBB Pro Card winner
hmm
from Australia. Let me see if I've got the right one here. Okay, so it should be loading in a moment. So we've covered her before. So let me just bring some context to her and then pass it over to Emma, who, as always, what we try and do, we look into the posing, talk about it constructively, and of course, we give it the posing pro rating. And what I really
yeah.
want to hear from you guys in the comments is tell us things you like from the posing we're seeing. And especially let us know as well. Do you guys have any shows coming up? Which categories would you like us to report on moving forward? So this one, Charlie, no stranger to the stage because I think she was the first ever or maybe the second one. It could be the second Fit Model overall winner from Australia. So
Mm.
all three overall winners over the last three shows from Australia all came together for the first ever pro qualifier for the new division, and Charlie took the win. Not just the win, but also the Fit Model Pro Card. So the first ever Australian IFBB Pro. So many congratulations to yourself. So look, something that sticks out to me is that smile never leaves. But Emma, you're going to break down a bit more detail than just a smile.
Yeah. Yeah, so obviously beautiful presentation, great stage presence, which is something we regularly talk about. She's smiling, connecting. She's even looking side to side, connecting not just with the judges but the audience as well. And this is something that really makes the girls stand out. It separates them from looking like they're new to the stage to being experienced. And I definitely will say this is a step up for Charlie's posing as well compared to the last review that we did. So she's definitely made some improvements here. She's definitely refined her posing, so you can tell she's been working on that. But let's start with this front pose, okay? And I like the front pose, but I think obviously we can see she's created nice long lean lines through the legs. The glute is definitely the most prominent part of the frame, along with that taper on the waist as well. Now, the only thing is for me, when we spike that front heel off the floor so much, we're affecting the line of the hips. Yeah. So if imagine you have got a spirit level, which we would use to do DIY, not that I do a lot of it, but we want to think about those hips being nice and straight, right? When you spike that front heel too much, it's going to knock the front hip upwards. So we kind of lose that straight line across the hips, which for me just throws off the flow of the physique. Obviously, it's going to make the glute look a little bit bigger, but we have to think about what are we sacrificing in the rest of the pose. I feel like when we get closer to that pro lineup, when we start to see those pro girls on stage, we're gonna really see what the judges want to see posing wise, and I think that's really gonna set in stone what they are looking for with this front pose. I feel like it's still a bit slightly up in the air with the slight different variations that we've seen, but I feel like we are going to work towards a fuller physique and being able to see both hip bones so that we have more of an hourglass shape, and also just giving a little bit more prominence through the top line. So we create more of that taper. So we get that nice small waist, but we're showing a little bit more of a top line and just squaring it off to the judges a touch.
So, I mean, one thing I want to mention as well, because some of you talk about on the last videos have always been the distance between both feet on when you set yourself. We've seen people that have been too wide, some
Yeah.
have been too narrow. In your eyes, is this the right distance?
I would say so. The only thing that I would slightly adjust would be placing not spiking the right heel off the floor so much that the right leg becomes almost disconnected and it looks a bit soft. Of course, we want a smaller a smaller amount of muscle through the quads for this division, but we just don't want to sacrifice the standard of the posing for to try and like fake the physique almost. But yeah, no, the foot position is good for me here. And I'd just like to see that right heel a little bit lower.
Well, let's continue the video as she turns to rear.
So as we step to the rear as well, now look at the glutes here. They're nice and full, they're nice and lifted when she sets up into the pose. Beautiful glutes here. The ratio from the shoulders to the waist looks fantastic. We can see that nice top line that she's got there, which creates that lovely V taper that we want to see in this rear pose. Okay. Now with the glutes look fantastic. They look nice and round and nice and full. But when Charlie transitions to the back, the glutes just soften just a touch. Now, we want to make sure that we're arching through the lower back the entire time. So we never allow that lower back to switch off. I always say to my athletes, from the moment you step on stage to the moment you step off, you're arching through the lower back, and we need to maintain that.
So, and also something else you pointed out as well in previous videos is the arm placement. Sometimes people's
Yeah.
elbows are pointed out. This very much looks like the elbows are pointing directly behind. So therefore, is it the right amount of gap that you're looking for?
Yeah, I think the gap is good here. She could maybe, if she rotated the elbows behind her a little bit more, it might just give a little bit more shoulder cap. But I'm not necessarily sure we need this for this division. So obviously, the more you almost squeeze the elbows behind the body, it's going to showcase a little bit more shoulder. Now, everyone's going to have a different amount of shoulder cap. So it's something, a lot of this division is trial and error with the posing criteria to make sure that you showcase your best to the judges. Now, I also I love the transitions. She's so fluid. I love how the arms are fluid. I love how she's smiling constantly. The T pose, the model pose looks really good. The only thing I would say as well is just be mindful of when we're trying to stand tall, not to make our midsection a little bit ribby. When we hyperextend through the lower back, sometimes that can continue into the upper part of the spine, and we kind of stick the ribs out. And when we stick the ribs out, it can make the waist look a little bit wider than what it is. So again, just breathing out, compressing, not compressing down on the abs, but just containing the midsection and the ribs so they don't push outwards. You can see here in this pose, the ribs are pushing outwards. So just closing that down a touch, controlling the diaphragm and the ribs, just and it'll make the waist smaller.
I think once again, something that you pointed out in previous videos as well is, and you mentioned it at the start, was the eye contact as well. That it's not stationary or linear to one location. As we can see, even coming to the front, left, right as well before she
Yeah.
leaves.
She's taken those tips on board, which is fantastic to see. She's executed. I just feel like again that front pose could be better. I feel like she's got more in the tank there to showcase,
Well,
but she got a pro card,
I was
so
gonna say if it's gonna be better, it'll be better in the pro rank. So, what is the posing pro rating for our new IFBB Pro from Australia, Charlie?
oh, I am gonna give. I'm gonna give an A minus.
A
Because I
minus.
feel like the presentation, and you know what I'm going to give the A minus for as well because of the improvement that we've seen from the last posing that we saw to now. Huge improvement as a whole, but there's just really the front pose. Can we make that a little bit better? And just the transition to the back. Can we keep those glutes lifted? So not an awful amount to work on there.
Talk about transition from amateur to IFBB Pro. So well done, Charlie.
Yeah.
The next person as well I'm going to bring up is Larissa, also from Australia. I believe that she was the first IFBB Pro, the first fit model overall winner from Australia. So she was back in the pro qualifier, came second behind Charlie. Was another one that was a big standout in the past as well. People were talking about her as being a definitely contender for the pro card, which obviously
Mhm.
she has been. So we'll look forward to seeing what she does next. But of course, we have spoke about Larissa in the past as well. So I'm looking forward to hearing maybe have you if you've seen or noticed any improvements from her posing as she goes into her next pro qualifier.
Yeah, I think she looks superb. I see a lot of good points in this posing. She's also got for me a really good fit model physique. I feel like she fits the criteria really well, and she's showcasing herself superbly as well. In the front pose, she's got really well developed glutes, and she doesn't have to do an awful lot in this front pose to kind of make them pop, and it looks really natural on her. She is spiking the left heel slightly, but she's also kind of rolling that foot in just a touch, and it's given her that longer line of leg through the hip, and she's getting a really full roundness through the glutes. So I think this for me is super impressive for her. The upper body, it looks really nice. A little bit ribby, but not a lot. And I'm just wondering if we could just give a little bit more through the shoulder cap, just to just give a little bit more of fullness through the shoulders, but not heaps. But I think I really, really love this front pose on her.
Let play out for a little bit longer as she
Yeah.
transitions to the back.
Transitions look really nice. Stagecraft is really good. Again, as she steps around to the rear, she softens off in the glutes just a little, but then she obviously pushes them back when she hits that rear post. So again, keeping the glutes lifted as she steps around to the back. Now, in this rear position, I think she looks really good. I'm just watching it on my phone so I can watch it for the quality. Okay, so the rear pose, I think the lower half looks good, but I just think the elbows are a touch too wide.
Yeah.
We can see there's quite big gaps between the waist and the elbows, so she could definitely just frame the waist just a touch more, so the elbows aren't winging out. But other than that, I think she looks fantastic through the rear position. Foot position is good. She's arching, but she's not arching too much. She's not flattening out the glutes. They still look nice and full. So I like this on Larissa.
I'm just gonna watch her come back to the front.
Yeah. Nice transitions here. Glutes are still nice and full. She whips around. And when someone whips around to the front like this and they move with such elegance and grace and confidence on stage, it just looks flawless. Like she, for me, there's not a lot wrong here. And I just think the way she is moving herself, maneuvering around the stage, and how she's positioning her body, for me, it's very tick tick box for the fit model division. Transition looks nice there. Everything looks fluid, seamless. It's all connected. There's no icky moments where you're like, oh. It's there's nothing jarring about it. I'm really enjoying it.
I want to pinpoint something as well, which I see it sometimes happen with some girls, especially when they got long hair. When she transitions to the front, you can see obviously the hair does come over, which can sometimes cover her shoulder, and sometimes people freeze at that point. And but how she maneuvers it is very easy, not
I
not
didn't even
stressing.
notice. I didn't even notice, and that's when you know how flawless it
Exactly.
is. Like so natural, and I think sometimes that's where athletes can not get confused, but then it becomes unnatural. You have to move in a way that is elegant, and it would be how you would naturally just if you had to move your hair off your shoulder. How would you do it naturally? It's with that same feeling and energy. She looked
Yeah.
flawless. She's not put off. Doesn't matter. Let me just flick it out the way and continue as I am.
Go on,
Love
then.
it.
What's the rating for our Larissa?
Um, am I going to give her an A? No, I'm going to give her an A minus because there's the hand position to the rear. She could just be a little bit tighter. The front pose, I do think she could maybe like make the waist just a little bit smaller with a little bit more top line. So I was bordering on an A, but I'm going to go with an A minus.
All right. Well, look, we've gone through some couple of people who've got experience in the football division as it's a pro qualifier. Now we go over to America, back to
Yeah.
the regional shows. So, first person I'm going to bring up is oh God, I completely forgot her name. I think it's Rebecca, who competed in the Girl Power Show. So just give everyone some
Okay.
context on the Girl Power Show. This is a female-only show. And of course, once again, just
Oh,
like these NPC shows, this is their first time putting on the fit model division. So
okay.
with Rebecca herself, she took the first ever fit model overall title in the first female only show of 2025. So well done to herself, and of course, well done to Bombshell Productions on another fantastic show. So
Mm.
I'm not sure. I don't think she's got experience in the bikini division. I believe this is the first time that she has competed. So I'm keen to hear your feedback now as we look at some of the new starters. We've
Yeah,
seen Larissa, we've seen Charlie.
absolutely.
Let's talk about Rebecca.
Yeah, absolutely. So she's definitely moving with confidence, with grace. She is smiling from the moment she gets on to the moment she walks away. She's smiling and engaging with the judges. And the front position, on Crazy Poppy. So the front position, I think she's executing quite well. The only thing I would say is because the hips are quite twisted to the left, it's almost showing a little bit too much of the side of the waist. And when we see too much of the side of the waist, it can kind of make the waist look thicker. Now, when you think about driving that front glute forwards, if you drive it too much, we're going to see more of the waist, correct? So, what we want to think about is just making sure that we do have a little bit more of the back hip coming around to the front. So, if we can see both hips a little bit more, it's going to give us that slight hourglass shape as well. She is, the upper body looks nice, which you can tell she's got shoulders, so she doesn't have to over present them too much. But sometimes when we really lift and lengthen upwards a lot, again, it can just push the ribs out just a touch. So I would just maybe try just breathing out, letting the midsection be nice and tight, and just seeing if that changes that front pose at all.
See it transitions to back.
Transition looks nice. She's given that hourglass shape when she comes in for the transition. When we step around to the back,
I'll
the
pause at the back a moment.
yeah. So when we transition around to the rear, there's a slight softening off in the glutes again as we step around to the back here. This is quite nice. Slight soften, and then we push and send the hamstrings behind. So again, is something that comes with stage experience and just a little bit more time on stage, but making sure that you keep those glutes lifted the entire time. Rear pose setup wise looks quite nice. So the foot position's in the right place. She's pushing back through the hamstrings. She's got the hand placement where it should be. The elbows are pulling behind. She has a quite naturally a wide taper. So sometimes, when you're carrying a little bit more muscle, we have to kind of figure out how we can almost pose down so we're not posing up and out. So maybe just encouraging her to maybe just pull the lats together a touch so she doesn't come, because you can tell there's a fair amount of muscle development there. So again, seeing her physique in a pro lineup will definitely give some sort of clarification as to what the judges definitely want to see. So we've got it all to come to.
I think one thing I've noticed as well, and I'll let you talk. We'll talk through this. Is we just saw Larissa with her transitions. Uh, obviously everything comes very natural to herself, a bit more expressive. Now, of
Yeah.
course, once again, we probably are looking at a first timer in the division. Very different when we look at the difference in transitions, which are probably only some of the small features people can do differently for the fit model posing.
Yeah, it's the attention to the detail, and when when you first learn to pose, you're really focusing on like the big things, like the pose itself, the setup of the pose, where the feet go, where the hips go, where the shoulders go, the transitions. You're thinking about the foot position, you're thinking about the glute shot and where the feet should be. When you get above that level, that's when you're really starting to deep dive into the smaller details, and the smaller details are what really bring you to the standard that we've just seen with Larissa. And again, this comes with time and practice and spending time looking at other girls and the detail of how they're moving. Okay, what's she doing and how's she executing like that? How can I just try and like make my pose and look a little bit more professional? And it's these little moments, even like the flick of the hair, not giving it a really big flick, but we just want to lift and just replace the hair. It's even those moments. And when you're coming back round to the front, making sure that the movement through the lower half is super fluid, so there's no moment again where it's a little bit there might be a moment where it just doesn't feel so fluid. So when we come back round here, there's a little knee bend moment which looks a bit awkward, and then she represents that front leg out. So it's just cleaning up these smaller moments that really really bring the pose into the next level.
So what should we give her for her rating?
I am gonna go for I'm gonna go C plus.
Perfect. Well, look, well done yourself in becoming the first winner of the Girl Power World Championships as a FIB model overall winner. Also, well done to your coach Ben, who I know. Let's go over to. Oh no, sorry, there was somebody else here. Where was it? Oh, I had. In fact, we'll go over to Amber. We're actually going to go back straight back to Australia.
Okay.
I'm going to bring somebody else in. So, Amber competed over at the Australia Pro Qualifier. Now, she's not past overall winner. So she's qualified just through the regional through a placing. But once again, we're trying to mix up the people we're viewing. We've looked at some pro qualifiers, some past overall winners. We looked at a first timer in the football division, and now we're looking at somebody who's qualified for the pro qualifier, but not as an overall winner. So I'm sure there's plenty that she's going to be able to take away going into future pro qualifiers. Already, I can see some differences in versus some of the other goals we've looked at straight away. One of them being a front pose. But Emma, I want you to take over from here.
Yeah, for sure. So, as you said, little bit of a difference with that front pose, and this is what I fear that new athletes to this fit model division think that the judges want to see. Now there's we can't see the legs because they're both pretty much in one straight line, which means that you're not getting that hourglass shape at all. It means that your front of your body is very much so facing flat to the side, which I know to an untrained eye, you would think, great, you can see loads of glute here, loads of glute. But what you're sacrificing is the rest of the position. And we need to remember that in all divisions, it's the overall position, it's the overall pose. It's not just about showing as much glute as possible and sacrificing the rest of your physique. So what I would have done here is just place the feet in a wider stance, to just give that hourglass shape, not twisted the left glute so much to the front, just allowed that right hip to come forward a touch more, which would have just showcased us more taper through the waist. And also just given a little bit more lat activation. So we definitely don't want to overpower through the lats or over present ourselves, but we need to create V taper, right? So if you don't slightly open your lats, you are not going to showcase that nice V taper. It doesn't need to be an aggressive lat spread, but we're definitely opening up the scapula. We can also see that the back arm is really pushing forwards and around, which again is just sacrificing the top line. We need to see the shoulders squaring off towards the judges, because when we see this, we get that nice upside down triangle shape. So this I always get excited when I see somebody like this, because we, with the corrections and the improvements, who knows what that front pose has the potential to look like.
Well, look, let's go to the rear now and see what she looks like from there. Here we go.
Rear position isn't too bad. The foot position is good. You know, we're arching through the lower back. The hands are placed on. There's not a huge gap between the elbows. This is actually pretty good. For me, it's just really the front pose and the execution through the transitions, just making them fluid, making sure you know the legs are locked out, the glutes are lifted, all of that kind of stuff. But this rear position, I'm pretty satisfied with it.
There we go. Let's transition back to the front and we'll then
Yeah.
give Amber a final rating.
And yeah, it's even like when we transition from the rear and we do that push with the hips, and just making sure that you know it is nice and fluid. We want to sway through the hips rather than like just someone's told me to push side to side, so I'm just going to push side to side. We want to just make it juicy, a little bit more gooey and a little bit more juicy. So rating wise, I
What
am gonna go. Oh,
what one thing I was going to say, I'm very surprised as well. And maybe Amber, you did this for a reason, but I think you're only one of the few that didn't, when you turn around back to the front, you didn't hit your front pose to give a judge another chance to see your front pose again.
oh
It was
yeah.
literally done and then you're off.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously I think it is so important in the fit model division because they've made it really clear that, they don't want a lot of transitions happening. They want to see the athletes go front to back and not really see much else in the middle. I mean, you're obviously going to add transitions in, but to not showcase that front pose again, which is what you're essentially being judged on, I think is a it's definitely an error in this scenario.
So you were talking about your rating. Now I brought that
Yeah.
up.
I'm gonna go with a D, but this is great because it means there's heaps of room for improvement, and it means the next time you get on stage, the physique is just gonna look like 10 times better.
There we go. Amber, no, definitely. I hope you do take this constructively as well, because as Emma said, plenty of potential there, and you've already proved it back out to the pro qualified stage. So we look forward to seeing what you do next. So yeah, there were the four we want to kind of cover this week, and we want to try and cover, like I said, we want to look at different levels from pro qualifiers to IFBB Pro Card winner to first timers to returning competitors. But you mentioned as well. And in fact, one thing I've been seeing on your page quite a bit is the membership page. The membership site, you do a
Yeah,
lot of talking about that. I've seen some new videos. Talk to me
yeah.
about anything new that's going on there.
Yeah, so exciting news, which I know a lot of people have been waiting for. We now have the Fit Model tutorials, which are available within the Academy. And we've got a really great service. So basically, you join us for 4 weeks. It's only £99, which, if you break it down, is a coffee a day. And you get access to all three levels of the Fit Model tutorials. And you then also send in a weekly check-in so I can check what you've done from the tutorials. I can give you feedback, very in-depth analysis where we look at lines, angles, all of the right shapes. And then you can continue to stay with us after that if you want to continue to work on your posing, or you can just drop in for a month and get the access to the tutorials, learn everything you need to know, get as much as me out of me as you can, and then fly the nest. So I'm excited because I know a lot of people have been waiting for the fit model tutorials. So we've got those ready to go live.
Awesome. Look, well, that's great here. We, as always, I will put the details in the bio below. Please do check it out. I am actually going to talk to Emma about potential giveaway. So now you can guys just keep an eye on that on our page later, early next week. Otherwise,
Yes.
we'll see you guys back for next week's edition.